Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Small Artist Sunday. In this series, I'll be reviewing albums and or singles from artists who have less than 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. For today's artist, group actually, we have none other than Free Party. Free Party consists of two members, Moco and Jay Veno. These two started rapping when they were in high school and would mainly do so over Lil Wayne instrumentals, and took great inspiration from Outkast, Kanye West, Lauryn Hill, Kendrick Lamar, and more, until eventually Moco and Jay Veno would set sail on August 3rd of 2018, releasing their debut single titled Alady, and since then have come a long way with their latest single titled Sandbox, which dropped in October of 2022. Free Party also has a handful of other singles in their discography, along with two full-length projects, the first being Grey, which released in 2019, and the other being Mirrors in a Dark Room, which dropped in 2021. Alright, that's it for the explanation part of things. I hope I did a good job of explaining this group. Hopefully I either put you on or just further increase your knowledge of this group if you do already happen to know them. So how this video is going to work is I'm going to go over all of their singles. I'm not going to get into the two full-length projects that they have. Who knows, it might be on the wheel of albums. Go check that out if you haven't, by the way. Links in the description down below. Alright, enough talking. Let's get to the review side of things, and let's start off with their debut single, Alady. This single, Alady, is 3 minutes and 29 seconds in length. This song was beautifully produced, in my opinion, with a peaceful sounding piano as the main melody, accompanied by a gorgeous vocal loop in the background and bouncy hi-hats, and also a sub bass that comes in a little later, filling in the low frequencies, completing the beat. Jay Veno commences this track, rapping about how he feels he isn't spending enough time with God and in return isn't getting as many prayers answered as he would like to. He has an effortlessly good flow on this track, which complements his intriguing lyricism really well. Veno is also on the chorus of this track, where vocally he just sounds absolutely incredible. The second verse of this track belongs to the other Free Party member, Moco. Personally, if I had to compare him to a more well-known rapper, I'd say he sounds a lot like Dave, in my opinion. Moco hops onto this track having a really energetic persona and has well thought out bars throughout his verse. He also, not to mention, sounds super sharp on this beat alongside Jay Veno. And yeah, overall, Free Party, I'd say, started their career off really well with this being their first song, as it was absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. I would recommend you give this song a listen, as I really enjoyed it, and let's move on to their next single titled Roller Coaster. Roller Coaster features Eva Malé, who I've never heard of personally. Veno is first up on this track as he kicks it off with these nice vocal inflections at the very beginning, and the starting chorus from him is nothing short of engaging, as it's infectiously catchy and has kind of a nice summertime vibe to it. We then hear Moco on the first verse of this track, rapping about how life is essentially like a roller coaster and how there's many ups and downs to it, and also the distractions that are thrown at you and how you have to resist the urge to succumb to them and stay focused on your grind and the road ahead. Eva Malé, who I thought was going to have a verse when I saw her on the feature list, just ended up being like a little bridge section as it transitioned to Veno's second verse. Veno on the second verse just comes in with a disgustingly good flow. His flow on this track sounds similar to something that J. Cole would do. On this verse, Veno is explaining to us how he just wasn't in a good relationship and wants to forget about it altogether, and how girls these days just seem to be unloyal, and how he has to keep a lot of options. This song is just a really catchy one overall, and one that I would recommend that you listen to. PG Baby is up next, greeting us with a nice piano and flute loop. Jay Veno is the first verse on this one, where we see him comparing his life to before and after he got famous. He also was heavily influenced by big name artists like SZA, Jay-Z, and Rihanna. He also gets into topics like his ego and how he had to filter that out to get to where he wanted to be. Moco is on verse 2 of this one, saying that how he hopes his vices won't lead him down a bad bad path, and how he's grateful that he has a good group of friends that will protect him from said path. PG Baby was a good track overall. The only thing I didn't like is that it was a little bit slow in my opinion, but aside of that, it was a great track from both of the members of Free Party. Helly's and Foams is up next. The song is started off with a sample chop. Jay Veno just tears this beat up like just guns a-blazing with a really spazzy flow and great rhyme schemes as well throughout his verse. Both Jay Veno and Moco are on the chorus of this song. On this chorus, they're rapping about how being a duo essentially makes them unstoppable, and if you try and mess with one of them, things are gonna go south really fast. Helly's and Foams was a really high energy track in my opinion, where Jay Veno and Moco were both in their bag. The third and last song on PG is titled Favorite Jeans. Favorite Jeans starts off with a nice chill indie beat, which I would have never expected a group like Free Party to hop onto. So I was really curious to see how they were going to go about this. Jay Veno sounds like a completely different person over this kind of beat, and his performance on this one is the furthest thing from disappointing, as he sounds phenomenal vocally in my opinion. On this song, he goes over how he will always be by his girl's side, just like a phone in somebody's pocket, and how they can rely on it never slipping out of their favorite pair of jeans pockets. And yeah, this was a great ending for PG Baby in my opinion, as Free Party did an excellent job of transitioning genres. Next up, we have Free Party's first single of 2022 titled Wimbledon. This song is a hard trap banger, which I really wasn't expecting at all, to be honest, which sounds like something straight off of Dreamville's D-Day. Jay Veno's first up on this track yet again. And I swear, this guy's flow just gets better year after year after year, as he just comes out spitting on this one. And Moco is up next on this track, who just keeps up with this insanely good flow, as he's just going 100 miles an hour on this thing. Towards the midway point of this song, we get this nice orchestral section, which Veno kind of cools off over. And then after, Moco just starts spazzing and spitting again, like he just keeps at it. We get a lot of braggadocious bars from these two in this track, like as if they're on top of the world. And towards the end of this song, we hear Moco and Jay Veno trading off one-liners as if it's a tennis match in a sense, which I really liked from the creative aspects of things. This track was a really fun and also creative one, but if you're gonna listen to it, you might have to listen to it like 2 or 3 times, as they're just going so damn fast on this thing. Next up is Gratuity, which dropped in September of 2022. If I'm going to give you one piece of advice, if you're going to play this song in your car, just be a little careful. Maybe turn the bass knob down a little bit, because the 808s on this song just bang. These hard 808s are nicely complemented by the vocal sample that we heard in the first 30 seconds of this track in the background. And for the first time in a while, Moco holds the first verse instead of Jay Veno. He first talks about how he has a chip on his shoulder, and as he gets older, it seems to just double in size. Towards the end of his verse, he says how he still feels like he hasn't fully healed yet, but how having some real conversations with his lady definitely helps with it. Veno's up next on the second verse of this track, with a nice wrestling bar to start things off, where he says, "My pops is a stone cold guy, he made the rock flip." Veno mentions how people only look at him differently because he's now famous. Veno on this one just continues to hit us with this staggering flow. I mean, how many fucking cups of coffee did this dude drink? He is just like spazzing on every damn track I've listened to. In my opinion, the great rapping and the flow from these two is what really kept me engaged for the bulk of this track, because I feel like the vocal sample, in my opinion, got a little stale after a while. But the vocal sample aside, I really enjoyed listening to this track for the most part, and I suggest you give it a listen as well. The track Heaven on Earth is the next one up in this list of singles, with the production on this one being super easygoing and laid back. We hear Jay Veno on this track saying how he wants to live in God's image, but how he struggles to do so, as he says he has a lot of negative thoughts and also some addictions. The hook on this one is Jay Veno saying that hopefully God has a spot for him in heaven reserved, but how he at the time feels like he didn't deserve it because of his actions. Next, we get a really emotional verse from Moco. The setting of this is at his cousin's gravesite, where we see Moco reminiscing over the times they had as he has tears in his eyes. This song ends with a rather shocking discovery as we find out that Moco was actually the one that killed his cousin. This was just a really deep track in my opinion, and wow, that ending was the last thing that I was expecting. I mean, Free Party's been on a roll with their singles so far, and that's another track that I recommend that you would give a listen. We are now on to Sandbox, which is their latest single. If there was one word that I could use to describe the production on this song, it would be depressing, as we're met with this really detuned saxophone with also subtle trap drums going along with it. Jay Veno channels his inner JID on this one with a flow just so rapid on this one. It's impressive how he didn't stutter. The setting on this one is Jay Veno whenever he was a teenager, and how like a lot of kids this age, they tend to have a lot of sneaky behavior whenever the sun goes down. His younger self also mentions on this track how he's only worried about having fun right now, and he'll worry about the future later. Moco is next up on this one, where he expands the list of bad habits that he and Jay Veno would do as kids, like how they would frequently indulge in alcohol consumption and also rent properties that they weren't able to afford at the time. And as the song comes to an end, the beat gets slower and slower until eventually fading out completely, which was a really nice send-off in my opinion. And that appears to be the final single on this list. If you haven't given Free Party a listen yet, I highly recommend that you do, as they have super gritty lyricism overall and really thought-provoking subject matter in their songs, not to mention. To give you a little bit more of an idea about Free Party if you're not familiar with them, to me they sound like if JID and Dave were to team up together and form their own duo. And yeah guys, that's gonna just about do it for this one. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, leave a like, drop a comment, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace out.